Hello and welcome to TV News and Inside Look. This documentary is designed to take you behind the scenes of this amazing business, to gain insightful information from professionals who have worked in this industry from 1 to 60 years. In total, the journalists you'll meet have over 300 years of experience and ready to reveal their secrets to you. And remember, each of them started where you are right now. So listen carefully, take notes. This is TV News and Inside Look.
We're a technical director and we're an aesthetic director. We have to be two people in one.
You know, if you're doing a story about tree trimming, you want to have a close-up of the chainsaw and the noise of the chainsaw. And a nap pop of a chainsaw would be, you know, half a second, quarter of a second. Put 3 or 4 quick nap pops in a row, and that's the best way to start off your story.
We do a little bit of everything.
121. They're working to save homes before a fire even begins.
Make sure when you're putting a piece together that when you're using B-roll to cover up track and stop, that you can hear audio. I want to hear audio to what I'm seeing. You got to make sure it's not overpowering what's being said by somebody, but to give me an oral sense of being there, I need to hear that.
Those are the girders, those are the windows, the floors, the stairs. That's all the meat that you get to use with, and the audio as well.
Just phenomenal
the way you put it together determines whether or not it's going to stand like a skyscraper or fall down like a house of cards.
The other thing about storytelling is pacing. Pacing is huge. If you have a great story and it's this really slow, relaxed story, but you're cutting it together really quickly and it doesn't fit the tone of the story, then it's not going to be as good of a story as it could be.
And telling a story is an internal rhythm. You know, you're going to have to know when it's time to get off of a shot, when you're visually bored of seeing something, even as low scale as a VO.
You know, a story that has a lot of energy, that there's a lot of action in it. For example, a high-speed chase, or something where there's video of the police struggling with the assailant.
Get back or you're going to jail.
I just feel bad for some of the innocent people that were out there that got stuck in the crossfire. They didn't
Something, or a fire perhaps is another good example. Fire is usually high action. You got the fire itself, the damage, potential damage, and the damage that is done. You got firemen all rushing to get it out. So those elements should be cut fairly quickly. The beat of that story is a lot faster than, say, the beat of a story about budget shortfalls, corrupt politicians, or on the other end of that spectrum, a touching story about a kid with leukemia or something along those lines.
I mean, I'll watch pieces and then you're just getting out. You can be 2 frames getting out of a shot, and I'm gonna sense it. I'm just gonna feel it that something's wrong there.
Maybe a closer analogy would be, it's like telling a joke. You know, 2 people can tell the same joke, and it's funnier when one person tells it than when another person tells it. And the reason why is because the way they tell the joke, they hit the right inflections, they pause at the right times, they hit you at the right moment with the punchline. You know, those all lead up to a joke being funny, or funnier than when it's just sort of told flat and all at one pace. You know, so every story, it's meant to be funny, touching, exciting, or what have you, has got a beat to it, and it's hard. That's just something that comes with experience, is to find the beat of a story, and to know, like, instinctively, that's the moment you have to cut. That's the moment right there.
So to tell a story, you have to have the technical side first. So people who think, well, you know, I may be slow and I can take 3 hours, but I can do a great, that's not the case, because once you hone in and get those technical skills, you're gonna do 3 times as good a work in that 1 hour or that 2 hours than you would have had you not known it. So that's the building block. I hate to tell people you don't have to be technically proficient. That's the #1 thing. Then when you have those tools, we can utilize those to help you tell the story.
So your ability to be able to pick up on things quickly and do it quickly so that you're not forever having to be taught. That becomes an invaluable asset.
Have to know our keyboard shortcuts. We absolutely have to, or we can't get this job done.
It's all about attitude. It really is all about attitude. You just have to have that attitude to keep on trying, to keep on learning. You know, don't be afraid to make mistakes, because if you learn from those mistakes, you know, and you're gonna make some pretty bad mistakes.
You get your ass handed to you a couple times. You know, the people above you, the people who are more experienced than you, will tell you flat if they're good. They'll tell you, you know, that was a bad edit. This was too fast. This was confusing. Keep working on it. You know, look and learn from the mistakes and just keep getting better.
I think the greatest challenge is dealing with it all together, because when things don't go right, it turns into stress, and it can wear on you every day. And what you have to do is keep a passion about what you're doing, but don't let it make you sick, and don't let it ruin your life. I think quite often, you know, sometimes when things aren't going right and you're not getting the proper elements and this and that, you sort of internalize everything that's going around. And I think because the news environment is such a hyper-stress environment, that you can fall into a pitfall where if you're stressed out one day, you come in not looking forward to the next day.
Not to assume that you know everything. That's the right attitude. To assume that you're going to be learning something every day. The minute you assume that you pretty much learned everything, you're going to be a detriment to the station. I worked as a chief editor for 7 years, and I learned something new every day.
When I started working here, or when I came in for my interview, I wanted to learn. I didn't want to become an editor. I wanted to learn how to become an editor. So even from my interview, I was asking questions, you know, how can I do this better? How can I do that better? And I was given, you know, pointers here and there. And the first time I interviewed, you know, I didn't do very well. And well, I'm sure I did fine, but I didn't do the best. And so I, you know, took away some information, you know, how to edit better, how to get quicker. And then the next time there's an opportunity, I didn't even have to come in to interview. They just called me up and said, hey, we liked you in your last interview. An opportunity came up. We wanted to see if you'd be interested in checking it out. And I think my willingness to learn and to get better is really what put me into the position now.
So the right attitude is one of learning. You know, you're not the learning doesn't stop when you're in college. When you leave college, it continues all through your life as an editor.
I remember when I was editing in college, I would know a few shortcuts and I thought I was good, but then when I started working here, I learned all these new shortcuts and all these new ways of doing things, you know, and I thought, you know, I was training people in college, you know, that were trying to learn how to do everything. And I came here thinking, oh, I know this, I know that, and I didn't know anything. Compared to what I know now, when I started, I didn't know anything at all, and I was the news director of our news program.
We're not on a factory line. I mean, what we're doing is sort of similar every day, but there's a variance in every single thing that we do. One story from the next will be completely different and pose different problems. So problem solving is actually a huge aspect of this, because you never know what you're going to get. And a lot of being able to do that will come with experience. Another part of it is being able to think quickly, make a decision that is the best decision you can make, and go with it. You know, a lot of times what I'll see new editors do is they'll make a decision, and then they'll make a different one. And they'll go back and make the same one that they made before, and then they'll make a different one. And we've spent 30 minutes solving one problem, where you have to evaluate the situation, find what's in your judgment that is the best solution, and then move forward.
Working in news is a very tough business. It requires a lot of drive and a lot of just the ability to push yourself and work long hours and dedicate yourself to a project and get it out on a deadline. And you have to be a collaborator. Editors always have to be collaborators, and the thing that they teach the least in college with regards to this business is they don't teach Colleges do not teach people to work together.
At other station I worked at, the only communication I had was a telephone. You know, if something went wrong, the phone started to ring in the bay. You know, if the phone rang in the bay, there was a problem. So when I was first starting out, you know, this phone would ring and I got deathly scared of this telephone. If I heard it ringing, I was in trouble, you know. And there's always, you know, a producer or somebody saying, hey, this is wrong, this needs to be fixed, you know, change this, change that. Why did this happen?
There are lots of times when a reporter will have asked me to put a particular shot in a particular order or cut it in a particular way. And I go back to them and I say, listen, it's just not going to work that way, and these are the reasons why. This shot and this shot don't match. They don't work together. You put them together, people are going to be confused because the subject matter changes too quickly. If you want to go from here to here, we have to transition that moment. It just can't go any other way. And I'll sometimes even go as far as to showing them by doing what they ask and saying, this does not work. You see how that doesn't work. A lot of times I try to avoid that because sometimes people will be stubborn and they'll say, oh, it totally works, you know, I don't care, you know, or I don't get it. It's like, you have to be able to convince them on the strength of your experience and your knowledge of how a story is put together that they benefit, the whole story will benefit, and they'll benefit by doing it the way that you want.
Number one thing that I look for on a demo reel is a sense of story, you know, and sometimes, and even myself, to be honest with you, when I was first submitting my demo reel, I was a little nervous because the material I had was only stuff that I had in college. And you think to yourself, well, I'm going to this professional environment. I really don't have anything I've been paid to do before. Don't worry about that. You know, if you got a camcorder out and you were shooting something with your buddies, it doesn't matter. What I need to see is that you can tell a story from A to B, to C to D. I mean, you follow that chronological. You tell me a complete story in one package.
I try to get a feel for how they tell stories, which is hard to do from a short demo reel. But you want to see how they think about story.
Demo reels that link online are not something I enjoy watching. I mean, I want a hard copy, a high quality copy, so I can see what's going on. I think some of the trend lately is you know, I'm going to get my web page and I'm going to link, and if you have a high res version that I can look at, fantastic. If you don't, then I would rather have a hard copy. Give me a DVD that I can watch at my leisure, take home and watch.
The biggest mistake people make when they do demo reels is they start off with something, or they do it chronologically or something in that nature where they're leading up to their best stuff. But because nobody watches it, they'll never see it, and they'll think that they're only as good as the first thing that they put on there. So the first thing you put on there has to be your best, absolute best piece.
If you really want to work in news, you need to do a lot of news. We had to do, I think, 5 packages over a semester. You should be doing 20 packages over a semester.
I can teach somebody how to get around on an editing system. It's much, much harder for me to teach somebody a sense of rhythm, pacing, storytelling, an eye of when they should get in and out of a shot.
Last year, more than 11,000 people skated at the park. That brought in about $70,000 in profit for the city.
And that's what I need to see on demo reels, is those sorts of things.